Sonic.
Welcome to Mindfully Fit and Intelligently Active with Paul and Orla.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast, in which myself and Orla are going to go through questions that you need to ask yourself if you are constantly stopping and then starting and then failing your diet. The truth is, me and Orla talk about this quite a lot, as anyone who follows our Facebook, social media, Snapchat, Instagram might know, and the podcast especially. But we speak about it because it is directly relative to how many private mails and questions and emails we get about fixing this bad habit. I'm also particularly of the belief that food is the only other thing besides oxygen we're going to need till the day we die, and that we need to learn to get full control over it, or else it's going to control us for life. And like everything in life, if you don't have control over a particular thing, especially something you need, it's not a good thing, obviously. So we've got these questions designed to get you thinking in the hope that it's going to get you to stop starting on a diet, stop failing on a diet, really get knowledge with nutrition. In fact, one of the biggest and strongest feedbacks, and definitely the happiest feedback we get from our online program, which we've just actually finished a block of, is that people say their mindset towards nutrition and food has been completely changed. And I think that's where people fall down a lot. For example, anyone who falls down forgets that it's time, it's patience, it's the rest of your entire life. So when you're thinking about if you're someone who's not happy with your body, I'm not talking about someone who's got 2% body fat to lose. If you're someone who's drastically unhappy with your body and you're overweight, obviously a change needs to happen. What has happened, and I'm going to ramble on and go into a bit of context about what happened recently with a good friend of mine who has quite a lot of weight to lose. By her own admission, she's doing really well. She is about a stone or two down, but she would like to lose another 3 or 4. And the context of her diet is plenty of good complex carbohydrates, plenty of good fatty acids, plenty of dietary amino acids. It's as simple as that. It's something I believe for everybody. It's why I think the overweight generally go wrong. It's why I think people with distorted relationships with food largely go wrong, assuming it's not emotional or psychological. But then she got unsolicited advice from someone who was trying to make a sale, telling her that she'd never slim down if she had carbs, told her to go zero carb. And luckily my friend didn't do that. She was much wiser to it because she's seen the progress of normal diet, where in the past she would have got shiny penny syndrome, done the no carb, lasted 2 weeks, got tired, lethargic, fell off, gained a shit ton of weight, and probably double the weight that they gained initially. Now I'm going to stop there and wonder if anyone listening to this is familiar with starting a diet, getting good, decent results, quick, dropping some weight, and then getting a little tired, fatigued, getting a craving, having a nibble, having a binge, going off for a couple of days, and thinking that the plan is their fault. Assuming the problem's not discipline, and in that case it generally isn't, there's no emphasis on long term. So the first question that I want to pose, and then Orla's going to chime in with me, is: can you see yourself eating in according with your current trend or your plan in 1 year, 10 years, or the rest of your life? Orla, I'm going to let you come in on this one.
So there's like a few things I want to touch on there. The whole idea of food and obsessing over it. We live in such a food abundance at the moment. There's food everywhere. There's ads everywhere. There's, food porn, hashtags on Instagram. There's, bakeries are popping up everywhere. And it's something that is everywhere. It's not going anywhere. Yet people seem to have this massive disconnect between gaining relatively good knowledge on how to eat for themselves. Everyone seems to constantly buy into shiny penny syndrome. They're going straight from A to D, and they're not even looking at B and C in the middle, or like that kind of longevity. And for so many people, they have such an anxiousness towards food, when food should bring calmness and enjoyment. But the whole kind of diet industry has molded into this terrible thing that you need to have control over, or else you're not going to be a good enough person if you don't look a certain way, if you don't eat a certain way. And there's all these standards that, you have to eat low carb, you have to eat paleo, you have to have a certain diet to almost fit into a certain niche. And it just creates this disconnect, especially for people who are quite overweight and don't know where to start, and they're just paralyzed. There's this paralysis through analysis. They're reading too in depth into everything, when literally they just need to strip it right back and not eat 3 takeaways, or not have full sugar Coke, or full sugar diet drinks. Oh, they're not diet obviously, but full sugar drinks. And for people then who aren't as overweight and they're constantly like starting a diet and falling off it, I always think there's always something behind a diet. Like losing weight isn't just done for the fact of losing weight. You want to do it for some reason. And anytime when we talk to clients, we always kind of delve deeper into the like, okay, and why? And why? There's at least like 4 or 5 and whys to be delved into there. Because I always think that food is almost acting, and dieting and falling off that diet as well always acts as this kind of mask for something else. And those habits are very hard to break. And there's always an underlying cause that you need to go back and fix. And general knowledge on food isn't that complicated. And just to put out that this is going to be a 2-part series, and next week we're going to do a kind of a blueprint on how to figure it out all for yourself. But there is underlying causes, and trying to figure them out first instead of just jumping on a generic diet. Because if you have some sort of emotional issues, or you have, are using food as a crutch, jumping on a diet where you go, quite low carb for 5 days and then have a big cheat meal isn't going to suit you. It might suit your best friend because she's never had an eating issue. But if you do have those issues, you can't use food as this crutch to just support this maladaptive behavior, because you're trying to cope with emotions, but you're not doing it with your emotions. You're doing it with food, and it's coming out in that way. So that's why it's so important to gain a good knowledge on, how many calories you might need, what kind of diet strategy is going to work for you. And you will need to try a few different things, and you will fail at some of them, but trying them and just knowing that it's about the long-term consistency, and what can you do that doesn't make you feel, number 1, anxious, number 2, scared, and number 3, like a failure or attach any guilt towards how you're eating.
Yeah, you mentioned something there that actually struck my attention in terms of eating a la a plan. If you're someone whose knowledge isn't great in terms of how much protein, fats, and carbs to consume, I really recommend staying completely away from diet plans and get a tailored nutrition protocol, a coach, someone who's going to educate you on food for the rest of your life. If it's a case where you constantly go on a plan, make decent results, and then go off it, and you don't really know what you're doing for the period you're not on the plan, it's not really a life. So I think the plan one is very interesting. I think if you get or invest your time or money, however it is to you, books, coaches, online, finding how to literally get into a safe caloric deficit for fat loss, how to maintain your body weight, how to get enough protein, how to get enough carbs and fats, depending on how you so wish to distribute them, and good, clean, healthy sources of food. Like, I really think health and fitness is 50% that, and then 50% good technique and some kind of exercise program, depending on where you want to be. But Orla mentioned as well that we would wonder why individuals want to diet and lose fat. We are in no way saying don't lose fat. We think the idea of taking your body as lean or as shapely or as great as it can be is amazing, because you're going to feel so good and your life's going to improve by knock-on effect, assuming you do it safely. But like I said, and it ties in with the plan, if you get someone who is, say, 10 stone overweight versus, say, myself right now, who I would love to lose 2% body fat, it's 2 very different criteria. It really is. So if we go to the same coach and get a plan, an exercise program, and a diet, it looks similar. It's just the truth. Unless you buy personalized, customized time, it's just going to look the same. And the chances are I am in a much better position, say, through my long-term habits and through my knowledge and through the fact that anytime I go off for a little while, it's usually down to periods of just slightly less discipline than I normally would have, versus someone who's overweight and needs to really fix their habits and fix the pattern. So when you buy a plan, you're buying the promise of physical change based on nothing other than physical science, nothing to do with emotional, psychological, knowledge, longevity, patterns, all the stuff that comes with it.
And something we always kind of say, and definitely that I think rings true, is that it's never a fat or a weight loss issue. It's always a thinking and a feeling issue that is kind of perpetuated or indeed masked by food.
Yeah.
And even just in terms of what you're saying there about, buying a meal plan, if you feel like you can't eat off the plan, if you can't tweak it, if you don't have that knowledge, then you're absolutely not in a place to just go on and buy another plan. That kind of element of tweaking something or adjusting it, if you're on the road or if you're at a wedding or if you're out with the girls or the guys, being able to adjust it and know how to kind of change it for you so that you'll still maintain results and you won't have to kind of do a what the fuck effect where you just blow it and feel crap. You should be able to gain that knowledge. So if you are someone right now who's listening to this and you can't see yourself sticking to the plan you're on for 10 plus years, okay, you need to address that. If you also are on a plan and you're like, oh, no, but it's going good. But if I said, okay, I'm taking the plan away now, do it yourself, would you be able to? And if you aren't, why aren't you able to? If you're paying someone for a service like that, they should be able to provide knowledge to you as well.
Yeah, I think you're talking about being able to tweak the plan by yourself. One of I'm saying this in case anybody listening to this is in the same boat, because this happens more than people would like to admit, and I'm sure it happens a lot more because it's not necessarily something we want to talk about. But like, it's funny when people start a plan and they would, not that I would ever personally be this specific as such, but I'll give you an example. I might say 30 grams of cashew nuts, and someone go, oh, I had 30 grams of walnuts instead of 30 grams of cashew nuts. Is that okay? And the disconnect then from the 2 weeks ago when they were off plan, they were slamming down 10 slices of pizza.
Yeah. Like for me, is it okay if I jump in?
Yeah, of course.
For me, there's always that thing of people are either perfect or not perfect and like go mental in terms of they might eat like 200 calories over, or like they might eat an extra meal because they're so hungry and like, oh, screw it, I had an extra meal, so I'm going to order a pizza. Might as well. But like, no, like you had 100 extra calories, your body might have needed that. If your body didn't need it, so what? It's one day. Don't go and blow everything for that reason.
I mean, they say that what I almost probably consider infuriating simplicity and consistency right now, but it's gearing your mindset towards making fairly decent decisions and making the best possible decision at a given time. And the best possible decision at a given time might be 2 or 3 beers with the girls or the guys on Saturday night. But the best decision most of the time, or 90% of the time, has to be nutritional education and good habits.
Yeah, but there's a thing as well that, you know, people say that, you know, make the best option at the best time. But a lot of people fool themselves as well. They think, oh, I made the best option. It's like, well, no, you didn't. Like, you could have prepared some food for that, you know, journey that you're taking. If you knew you were going to Dublin, you know, and you're going to be in the car for 4 hours and you had an hour before you left, you should have prepared food and not got a sandwich.
It's a whole other story, but if you're to get a bit, I'd love for people who struggle to audit themselves and ask themselves, are they being honest? If you're blaming anyone else, anything else, or thinking that you didn't have time, I would beg you to go back and audit that, because I can almost 100% guarantee that none of those three are the case.
Do you want to give people like literally just a question to ask, like as in, if you are saying that you don't have enough time, when this podcast is over, or like pause it right now and write down from the moment you got up today, what did you spend your hours doing?
I mean, the truth is, let's take a parent. There's every chance that they drop their kids to school and back. Actually, it's the summer, so today that's not even a thing. Work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours. That's still 8 more hours in the day. I don't believe someone can't find 30 minutes to cook and prepare a good breakfast or a good lunch, particularly for work the next day. I just don't believe that exists. I think everybody has time. I think 24 hours in a day. I think the biggest injustice in the world is people fooling themselves. We're the easiest people to fool is ourselves. I think it's silly. And I think that's why people get caught up in letting it go so bad because of excuses that it's time to push the panic button, get a strict plan, go full throttle in, and inevitably the irony of the situation is that the desire for perfection ultimately is going to lead to a harsh failure.
Exactly. Do you want to move on to the next question? So we kind of rambled off on that one.
Sure thing.
As per usual.
This one is because nobody is thinking about the long game, I'm afraid, and patience is everything. But are you aware that such drastic undereating or bad binge cycles and your entire physiological response to your psychological outlook on food may be badly hampering your body's functions? Like, for example, having children for women.
Yeah, so this is a massive one that so many girls, especially girls my age, don't think of. I feel like so many teenagers and people in their early to mid 20s are so blinded by materialism and how everybody looks that you don't think about the long game. Like, people don't even think about the long game in terms of eating habits. They're not even thinking about the long game in terms of their hormones, their endocrine system, their ability to have children. And so many girls that I have worked with and that Paul has worked with don't get their periods, which is not good, like literally through dieting. And we've had a few people who've come through our hands, and you know, all we've done is upped their food a little bit, totally taken away the anxiety of, you know, weighing themselves or having to send progress pictures or anything like that, because it depends on the individual. Some people that might work for, but for these kind of people it doesn't. And changing a few small things around so that they can actually get their period again, so that in 10 years down the line, like, there's so many people who have done competitions, people who have just abused their bodies, people who have invited eating disorders.
People who are exposed to all of this on social media, that whatever about not actually comparing, let that thought, sorry to interrupt you, Orla,
No,
but
you're
let what you let into your mind, either subliminal or otherwise, is going to be a factor. And I just beg people to think that their habits now at 23 or 26 or 28 will transcend to when you're 37 and 38 and you have kids and a mortgage, and like you'll be in a position in life where your body image and your food can't even afford to be your number one priority, but it'll probably still be the number one thing that gets you down if you so let it.
Like if you're only letting your your value, come from your self-image, if you're only letting your image, like your body image, be the value towards your own self-image, that's not going to get you anywhere. And I honestly, this is a heartfelt plea to anybody listening to this, any girls, think about the long game. If you do plan on having a family and you haven't been getting your period, or you're dieting so hard that it's causing you stress, so you're not getting your periods or anything like that, it's not going to get better, and you need to get out of this terrible cycle, because this just invites eating disorders, all this obsession with it. And there's such a link between eating disorders and suicide. And, what if you get to 30 and you want a family and you decided that, you're all through your 20s, you wanted to get a six-pack, so you dieted so hard and binged that you had this terrible relationship with yourself. You fucked up your hormones, your endocrine system, and then you weren't able to have children at 30, which caused a severe depression in you. Like, you just don't know how things are linked.
It's true. And you're your own best example. But I can speak from experience. When I started my own physical transformation back in 2000, and I want to say at the end of 2014, I literally just started. I was always a bit of a gym head, nothing too serious. I was that guy that chatted bollocks during all his rest periods and didn't really train with any intensity. Then I decided to take it up. I wanted a six-pack. And before I knew it, my 9-month, 1-year transformation, genuinely it turned into a really all-consuming obsession where how I looked was everything. I cut myself off from friends, social circles, whatever. Ended up doing a bodybuilding competition. Then I ended up getting involved in this like really bad eating disorder pattern where I would literally stuff crap into me. Then I'd be dieting again Monday through Friday, really harshly and over the top out of panic and sheer like reaction to what I had eaten over the weekend. And that compounded over time to the point where I literally lost my zest for life, lost my sex drive, lost everything good in life. I barely wanted to be alive to enjoy the good situations that came in life. And it all stemmed from a pretty much a glorified eating disorder. And it was something that I was blessed to be able to say that within 6 months to a year, I pulled myself out of. I'm a very strong character. That's just the truth. So I wouldn't like anybody comparing our situations. I'm generally very emotionally aware, and I knew I was running myself into the ground and setting myself up for an awful life. But at 25, I had lost all the good parts of a 25-year-old male's life. And I thought, this is shit. This is going to be crap if something or someone or anything good happens, a partner, kids, you name it. And it's something I got in tune with, and I just decided, Jesus Christ, man, you got to pull yourself out of it. Now, I was blessed that I had Orla, and I had the strength of character to do that. And it's just a plea that if anybody's stuck in this vicious cycle, which I'm sure more people they admit are, you need to put yourself first and put the steps in place to come out of it.
I couldn't have said that better. Yeah, I totally agree. It's just such a vicious cycle that people get caught up in, and that they don't even realize. And they're tortured when they're on their diet, and in 10 years down the line, they'll be tortured when they're off their diet.
Yeah, your body takes a shit ton of stress just by living. It's best not to start compounding that yourself and adding more to it. Next question I put to you might be more of a straightforward one, but I think everyone can relate to this in some shape, way, or form. Do you worry about social events or holidays for fear of what you might eat? We all know people that have almost worried about social events or even panicked about holidays and thought, oh, I'm going to be a whale after the 1 week. And when I think logically, I think you train and exercise 51 weeks in the year to go on holiday for 1 week in the year. If the situations were reversed and you're on holidays 51 weeks of the year and you train for 1 week of the year, I might understand the fear. But as long as you don't go running off to your holiday and literally saying fuck it and eating everything around you and going with that balance of I'm going to have a little fun, I'm going to relax a little bit, I'm not going to do anything to make myself feel shit, you don't have anything to worry about.
Exactly. Like when you go on holidays, choosing whatever behavior you're going to do and just choosing that consequence and going with it can be fine, but people get led into this absolute guilt and they kind of come back from the holidays. And do you know what? I feel like so much of it is this diet industry throwing it at them like, don't worry about your holidays, I'll show you how to be skinny for your holidays. But it's like, no, train consistently, eat pretty well, have good habits for the other 51 weeks of the year, go on holidays, enjoy yourselves a bit. You might gain a little bit of weight, you might lose a little bit of weight, it all depends.
I mean, it's not an excuse to go off track completely. Like, there's every chance you'll go for a few beers or enjoy a dinner out, but the rest of the time, you can still get your fruits and veggies and whatever it is, what have you, during the day that'll make yourself feel a bit better. And you're probably going to be a bit more active anyway on holidays. And on social events, chances are they're quite rare, like once a week, which are not really that much to worry about. And if they're more frequent, it doesn't really support your goal for a better body anyway.
And it should be all about, there's a really good phrase I heard as well before, and it said, your mindset determines your behavior. So if you go into this with a good mindset of, okay, I'm going to eat really well for like 6 days, going to train because I have a body that I'm able to nourish and celebrate, and I get to go out and see my friends on like Saturday night, or, you know, have a big family dinner on Sunday. I'm so lucky that I get to do this.
Yeah.
Literally, even just having that mindset is going to get you in a better place, because there's going to be less stress. And there's, like, in a podcast that we did, I can't remember what episode it was, but it's the kind of psychology of eating that we spoke about. There is so many studies linked to the psychology of eating, and if you associate stress or anxiety with certain foods, that it is going to have a different effect on your body. So your mindset towards something does determine the behavior and how that food will affect you too.
I mean, something that makes me cringe a little bit every time I hear it is when people complain about their donuts or eating slightly too much or justify it. I know it's not in malice, but I always think there's someone in the world starving. There's probably hundreds of thousands of people dying of starvation, that a donut or too many sweets or the possibility of a night out would literally be the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
When you realize the privilege we have, it makes you stop want to be acting like a privileged asshole, to be honest.
But even though, just in terms of bringing it right back to what you said, like if what you're doing for the 50 or 51 other weeks of the year isn't cutting it, and you're getting fat in 1 week, it's not that 1 week that's messing you up. It's the other 51 where you're either not doing it consistently, you're not eating good whole foods, you haven't optimized your metabolism, you've just dieted and binged or not done something correctly. So you need to assess the other 51 weeks, not just the 1 or 2 weeks of holidays, because that's not what's messing it up for you.
Something I worry about personally is when people have a holiday coming up and they want to take drastic measures to so-called peak for the holiday, like drastically reduce carbs or train doubles, or, you know, manipulate water retention or all that stuff, which as standalones, maybe they work and maybe they don't. But I think for most people that don't have the knowledge on their body, it's not a good idea. I always joke, you'll look good on the plane and then you leave yourself open to feel shit in the whole holiday, because you're likely opening up the floodgates for not being able to quite control your temptation or your cravings. The best thing you can do is for a holiday, 6 to 8 weeks, get into a safe calorie deficit, maybe 10 to 15, even 20% below your calories that you're currently eating. Maybe add in a little bit of supplemental cardio and exercise once a day, 5 days a week. Be consistent, be smart, be mature, be a little bit disciplined, and then go and have a great time on your holiday. And as far as your social events go, just employ balance and realize that the opportunity to socialize with your friends is amazing. And maybe that life's not for you. And maybe that's not like, maybe you don't enjoy social events. Maybe you don't enjoy going out at all. And that's even handier towards your physique goals. But I just think the thought of being afraid to do shit that life is for, the thought of being attached solely to your body and how you look. You know what the irony is? People who are attached fully and solely to how they look will never reach how they want to look. Not because of a physical thing, because of the mindset thing.
Even like we were talking about this earlier, and if you're only predicating your worth on your self-image, have a little look at next time you walk into Boots. Look at all the products they have there. Every single product in that shop is aimed for you or for someone that you know to make them look better. Like the list is endless. Yeah. You can start at your hair and go all the way down to your toenails, and there's a product to make you better, make you feel better. You're never going to get where you want to be. And even if you think you are, there's going to be companies out there trying to kind of nudge you, being like, oh, but look at this. Oh, you can have shinier skin. Oh, you can have matte skin. Oh, you can have matte lipstick. Oh, but your lips look better when they're glossy, and buy all our products and want to sell you everything, but we care about you. You'll never get there.
Those companies know our little monkey brains are designed to see the negatives and think we can buy it and fix it and get that short-term gratification that only external things can heal. Not always good. Next question, kind of two questions in one, is a bit of a heavy one, but do you always feel guilty if you treat yourself or go off plan? And is a binge likely to happen if you decide to have a little something sweet? Is it a case of suffer on plan, suffer off plan?
That's a hard one, because people are just like we said at the start of this podcast. They're only buying into meal plans and they're not gaining knowledge themselves. So when they're on a plan, they're suffering because they don't really know how to tweak it to enjoy themselves. And then when they kind of do the 8 weeks of that and they fall off, they don't know where to go from there. So they're suffering because they don't enjoy how they look. And then kind of in the limbo period in between it, they're suffering because they're frustrated with themselves because they don't know where to go.
Yeah, like meal plans can work for some. They work for people who are trying to go from lean to super lean, who have good knowledge but need that discipline and adherence. And they might work for somebody who's trying to make a drastic change as a transitional period while they're learning about calories. But ultimately, I believe, and me and Orla firmly believe, you can't be relying on a meal plan all your life. It is one of the best feedbacks we get when it's like, oh, I'm glad I have more nutrition knowledge and I can structure my own food plan now. But so that's kind of the thing. And the suffering on the plan and the suffering off plan, as Orla kind of touched on there, is literally, you're thinking about being on your diet all week, being good, not being bad, and then it's kind of a case of, like, when's the last time somebody ever went off plan or had a cheat meal or anything like that and mindfully enjoyed it? You know what the irony is? It kind of seems a bit crazy to have a Moro on Wednesday at 7 because you wanted a Moro Wednesday at 7. But anyone I know who eats like that enjoys the Moro on Wednesday at 7. They don't enjoy the massive tub of ice cream on Saturday because it's cheat day.
But you know what the thing is? I feel like you need to be able to do both. Like, where I am right now, if I decided on Wednesday at 7 I wanted a Moro, I would let myself do it. But I haven't gotten into the shape and I haven't, had these habits through just, default. Like, I've worked on, sometimes when I want more at 7, I have to say no because I know what my goals are. I have certain desires of how I want to feel, how athletic I want to be. You have to have a certain amount of discipline and know when is the right time to say no, especially towards your emotions. I feel like people attach so much of food and emotion together and they think, oh, but I had a bad day and like if I just have a piece of chocolate I'll feel a bit better. Like, no, you fucking won't. You don't. It doesn't. Because then you're going off plan, then you feel bad about yourself. So you have to know and you need to practice discipline. It's like, it's discipline, something that's been around for hundreds of years. Think of all the martial arts. Think of like different religions where they put nails into certain parts of their body or they do massive, 4-day treks to their temple, and all the martial arts where, they sit in silence and they chop things with their hands, and monks, everyone. Self-discipline is such an important thing, and working on that will lead you to a better destination. You need to know when to say no. You need to be rational with yourself. You need to be logical with yourself and stop kind of being this emotional. And like, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with emotions. Emotions are brilliant, and I feel like you should write down a lot of your emotions that are happening. But being just emotional and thinking food's going to fix that isn't going to work.
Well, very, very true. You're very in tune with your own emotion, and I guess being able to apply that discipline. Like, I know personally, and we might have said it in previous podcasts, I don't have the luxury of them eating one Moro at 7 and staying disciplined. I know that doesn't exist in my world.
But you have that self-discipline to become aware of that, and then employ that discipline of, you know what, I'm just better if I stay away from Moros, and I'm not going to harp on about it, and I'm not going to tell everyone about it, I'm just going to do that. Yeah,
it's true. It is. It's a case of self-awareness. I think it's know thyself. Something I try and preach with clients. I don't make them give up anything, but I do beg them to know themselves and get to know them. If you're likely to slip, don't go to that slippery place. I feel I don't have much control over sweet chocolate and sugary foods. Something I've never been good at balance. I've never been good in the middle ground, playing in the grey. It doesn't come naturally to me. So if something's detrimental and I can't play in the grey, and if it's black or white, if I'm going to play in the black, it's probably best I don't play at all. Whereas Orla can play in the grey all day long. And I think there are two of the strongest forms of self-awareness that you can have.
Absolutely. And like Charles Duhigg wrote a really good book about the power of habit. And there's just some small little snippets from it that I do remember when it was a few years ago now when I read it. And it was talking all about habits and how you can change your response. But like a habit is really hard to kick out of you. And like, if you imagine like a kind of a little chain, like the habit's at the bottom and you're going to build in all these new chains, and you might have gone super far from it, but it's still connected all the way back to that initial habit. And if that cue or that trigger, like Paul, if I left you for a whole day and like took all the food out of here and you were left for a whole day with no food and 4 tubs of ice cream, like you'd go back to that old habit of binging out on ice cream because you were starving. Yeah. Do you know, like old habits are hard, but what you need to do is you need to become self-aware and think about, okay, where was I when this happened? Who was I with? Why did I eat that? Yeah. And thinking about those kind of things can get you, sometimes just removing some of those things will get rid of the bad habit.
Yeah, very powerful indeed. So the next question, we've kind of touched on this one, but I feel I'm just going to say it one more time anyway, is have you thoroughly learned how to eat according to your body's needs and how to nourish your body, and not how to eat in the hope you're going to look like the fake bullshit posted on Instagram that not even that person looks like? And I'm sorry, but that is just the truth.
Yeah, like you can't live your life predicated on what is working, I'm using kind of air quotes, what works for other people. You don't know their past dieting history. You don't know anything about them. You don't even know if that's what they really look like.
When I think social media, when I think kind of comparing someone to an image of social media, I think throwback pictures, I think filters, I think drugs or fat burners, I think like those performance enhancers. I think a whole lot of falsehood and bravado, because you show me someone in the real world and I guarantee they're working on themselves and they're kind of, either good or bad or positive or negative, channeling their energy and kind of comparing themselves to someone or bettering themselves based on a certain thing. But no one's perfect. And yet on social media, all we get exposed to is the glamour side of things. I actually have no problem with that because each to their own on social media. Who to say what's wrong, and everything's a reflection of what's inside us. This doesn't bother me at all. Like, I literally doesn't. I give 0% energy to how someone looks on social media. But I'm aware, and I wondered why, and I'm aware that because I used to get so consumed in it, and I really did, I touched on that earlier, it was a reflection of my quest for my own so-called perfection that I literally used to look with dudes, like, I used to look at other dudes and think, why the fuck don't I look like that? And looking back, and in reality, I actually looked better anyway, and that's neither here nor there because that's fucking subjective. And at the best I've physically ever looked in my life, I was probably at my most self-conscious and least confident. And now that I say it out loud, I realize what a pathetic sob story it sounds, and I need to get the fuck over and man up and start enjoying life. And that's just how I feel. And that's just a reflection of what's in myself. But I know that there are people that are still susceptible and naive to thinking that the social media images are real. And I'm still very surprised by that because some clients say it to me. And the best thing you can do is not think it's crap or not think it's real or not think it's good or not think it's bad, but just don't think about it. Don't compare. Literally don't let that energy enter your mind. If you can't control your mind enough to not let that negative energy into your mind and to fill your mind with stuff that's going to support you, look, you let that crap into you. You let that fake or real or perfect or whatever into your mind, that's not going away. It's taking your energy. It's not going away, and the only loser in it is you. Fill your mind and your spare time with positive stuff. Audiobooks on how to get a better mindset if that's you and if you can actually go out and apply them. Audiobooks on how to get a better career, or YouTube videos on how to exercise better and more efficiency or more bang for your buck. Nutrition things on how to eat a little smarter. Things like that literally support the journey of you getting personal and physical growth. But for as much as I'm all like, stop comparing to Instagram because it's not real, like, stop. Or else be the fool that keeps doing it and wondering why the fuck you don't look like that. Because I can promise you, I chased it and I chased it and I chased it. And in hindsight, I got down to 5% body fat. I literally got down to the leanest you can be on stage. I got the most conditioned a human can get. And I still didn't see it because I was so busy comparing myself to someone else. Then I binged, then I binged, then I binged. And then I found myself up again at 17% body fat again. And I get not once stopped and taken in that, whoa, you were super lean and freaky and dudes were looking at you thinking, oh, I really want to look like that guy. And that was gone. And now the irony is I sit here at 12% body fat, the best I've ever felt, the best I've ever performed, the best I've ever lived. I don't give a fuck what anyone else is doing. And that's a mindset shift. And that's going to change the rest of my entire life. And I will never feel bound by comparison or insignificance or inferiority complexes ever again. Because how you look at like your body and your food is a complete metaphor for how you look at everything else in life. And quite honestly, I just don't give a shit what anyone else is doing right now because I know that A, everyone is super self-involved. B, more people than we realize are super self-conscious and that's why they can come across a bit selfish. And C, nothing good comes from wasting time, even 5 fucking seconds on someone else because they're going to fucking do what they want and you've lost your own 5 seconds. So just a thought, if I get nothing else through on this whole series of podcasts for however many episodes we last, I hope it's the last 3 minutes and 40 odd seconds. I really do.
Woo! Sing it, sister.
No, it's true. I feel passionately on that one. Shall we move on?
Yes.
So, look, we've got 2 more questions. It's quite a long podcast, so I don't want to dwell too much on them. Basically, do you realize that the longer that your distorted outlook on food goes on, the harder it becomes to break the cycle? I actually think I just answered that one in the sense.
Yeah, you did. And even we kind of touched on there talking about when I was talking about the book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and just realizing that unless you recognize what's causing you to fall down constantly, you're not going to be able to fix it. So you need to go back and like address whatever that cue or trigger is and figure out how to work away from it in a safe zone for you.
And finally, the very last question. If you're in this place, the irony is you won't be aware enough to realize. If you're in this place and you have good friends or work colleagues, they'll probably have noticed. Are you running the risk of apologizing or justifying or constantly talking about food to people, so much so that you're actually unaware how little interest they have and how you're ultimately isolating yourself from them? Because I've seen that happen in the past with people that get obsessed. A lot of the time with kind of competitors in the figure or bodybuilding or physique world, but quite often people who get obsessed with diets and apologize for food and think, oh, I'm on a diet. Whether they're talking about it in a weird justification system to themselves, or they almost expect others to respect it and blame the others for bringing scones to the office, but constantly talking or justifying or whatever it is, complaining about food to other people just makes you boring.
I think one thing that people, and I know it's quite a hard thing to develop yourself, but it is something you can work on, is just being a strong and warm character. Nobody warms to someone who's like, I can't eat that because I'm on a diet. Why did you bring that to the office?
Yeah.
But if you can say it pleasantly to someone like, look, those scones look amazing, but I'm really making a conscious effort myself to cut back a bit. So thanks so much for the offer, but I'm good with just the lunch that I brought.
Or you could do what I do and just go, no.
Or, well, yeah, but as in, if someone else doesn't know that you're on a diet and say it's like Teresa Smith's birthday in the office and they brought them all in, they think, God, that Paul guy's such a douche.
No, you're right. You're absolutely spot on.
You have to be respectful that other people, like Charles who made them might look, Charles, I don't know where they're about it. Charles who made them might look amazing and feel amazing, and he might, run marathons, but like not worry about any of his food, and he's just in a good place, and he thought, hey, it'd be nice to bring some scones to the office. He didn't know he was going to ruin your day.
No, you're absolutely right, and I always say that like all our problems in life would nearly be solved by better communication, and to be able to be that straight and that honest with people that you're going to be like professionally intimate, I guess, with or close to on a daily basis forever.
Yeah, but like it is that kind of thing of not putting the person down. So anybody who's like brought food to the office or like forcing, like go on, you'll have one. Don't put them down. Like I feel like you'll never beat anger or pushiness with anger or pushiness. So if you compliment them on whatever, they brought to the office, explain your situation in a kind of really short way, and then just end it with a very serious and strong, I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people they won't come at you. If it's constant, oh no, I can't. Oh, I'm on a diet. Oh, I can't. Oh no, stop, don't be giving me that. Oh, it looks lovely, but I can't. They're going to be like, go on. It'll just be like Father Ted, like 24/7. Yeah. And then in terms of other people who are, these kind of people aren't even going to realize, are they? People are like, oh my God, I eat all the carbohydrates. It's like, no, you eat out really carefully measured portions at specific times of the day because you're scared of the effect those carbohydrates will have on your body. And
it ties into my previous point, and they're going to talk about that anyway. So run your own race and stop worrying about what the fucking anyone's up to, because 98% of the stuff we're exposed to is kind of horseshit. And it's not even horseshit. People convince themselves it's crap. So
yeah. So I think it's good enough to leave it there. And like I mentioned at the start, we are going to split this into a 2-part series. So on next Monday, we will have a kind of a blueprint almost for how to really basically build your own training and diet strategy. Obviously, it's going to have to be tweaked and it's just a baseline, but just to give you some more practical advice. So if you've responded to any of these questions, you're like, oh my God, that's me, or I could totally relate to that, it'll be a really good one for you to listen to. And kind of coming from that too, we have our next course starting on July 31st.
Yeah, we want to literally significantly change your attitude and relationship and knowledge, most importantly, with food, with sociality, with yourself, with your mindset for the rest of your entire life. It's our sole goal. We also want to help improve people's training, execution, technique, and progress. Combine the two. We feel that the mindset industry in fitness is pretty grand, but mindset without application is nonsense, and most people who feel bad about themselves just haven't learned how to feel good about themselves. We want to transform mindsets, knowledge, training, progress, and execution, and we aim to do it through our 8-week online program. It's very interactive. It's very thorough. We like to think that there will be 0 stones left unturned and any questions left to be asked by the end of the process. We're here daily.
And if there is anybody who's interested in it and you don't really know how you feel about doing something like that, feel free to get in contact with us at pauldurhambyclients@gmail.com, and we could put you in contact with a person who's gone through the program, and they can give you their kind of unbiased review of how they feel about it as well. And it's something that it's added to their life or how they think it might be able to bring you some value.
And if anyone's listening to this for the first time and hasn't checked out our Snapchat, it's pauldermody28. It was established before Orla came to work with me. And our Instagram is Paul_and_Orla, ORLAITH. We put a lot of our practical technique and execution tips and a lot of our recipes and our daily frequent Q&As up on Snapchat, so definitely worth checking out for anybody who is new to this.
And for anybody else, just to let you know, all that information will be in the show notes as well. So if there's any spelling that you don't understand or you missed out on, feel free to just click into the show notes where we'll put all that information for you.
So thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all on the next episode.